Pittsburgh Steelers' new starting quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, just predicted some huge seasons from these players that fans might not know about across the NFL. So, the Pittsburgh Steelers have some playmakers on this team that are youngins that haven't really produced as of much in the NFL, but Aaron Rodgers believes that they will be some standout guys in the NFL this upcoming season with him at quarterback. But first, before I get more into who they are, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. Also like this video. Now, let's get right back into it. So, Aaron Rodgers took over at quarterback when he signed right before mandatory minicamp. And now we all know that he goes on ESPN's Pat McAfee show to talk about his life and football and do some weekly checkups every Tuesday. Well, in this past week, Aaron Rodgers went on the Pat McAfee show and basically said that these people on the Pittsburgh Steelers are about to have some breakout seasons with him now at quarterback. Here's the quotes. There's some guys you don't know about that I think you're going to start hearing about as we get past this lull in the sports world and get into training camp and football season is around the corner. There's some real good young players that have got a chance to make a name for themselves this year. End quote. So, there's some young players on this team. We could go through a list of them of who barely seen the football field, who've been barely given opportunities thus far on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And when you look at who Aaron Rodgers has already name dropped, he name dropped Darnell Washington. Darnell Washington is a player who Aaron Rodgers compared him to his longtime friend and teammate, Mercedes Lewis. Wherever Aaron Rodgers went, it doesn't matter if it was the Green Bay Packers or the New York Jets, Mercedes Lewis ended up being on the same team as him. And why was that? Well, Aaron Rodgers trusted Mercedes Lewis for blocking, for also catching the football, and specifically in the red zone. He was a player who had the trust of Aaron Rodgers to do what he had to do to win football games. And it doesn't matter the age that Mercedes Lewis was at. Mercedes Lewis, whether he was in his 20s, his 30s, or late 30s, he was still getting it done with Aaron Rodgers. So that's the trust that Aaron Rodgers had in Mercedes Lewis. And for him to name drop Darnell Washington and compare him to his longtime teammate in Mercedes Lewis, it only bodes well for him because that means he trusts him and he sees what he saw in Mercedes Lewis, in Darnell Washington. And we know when Aaron Rodgers, when you get on his good side, he throws you the football and he makes it a point to target you. And if that's what he sees in Darnell Washington, then you can expect some big things for Washington this upcoming season. Whether that's yards or specifically touchdowns, we're going to have to wait and see. But expect some big things out of Darnell Washington. And that's a player that he's probably talking about here when he's talking about young guys barely given opportunity. Because when you think about it, Washington is barely throwing the football. He's in more so just a blocking tight end thus far throughout his career. But now with him at the helm at quarterback, he's going to take over and he's going to start targeting him more in the middle of the field and in the red zone. So Darnell Washington is a name to watch out for based off Aaron Rodgers and what he's saying on the Pat McAfee show and what he already announced earlier in the offseason as a name drop. And to be honest with you, this is a great thing for the Steelers because Darnell Washington is a player who could do more than just catch contested balls because he's 6'7" and weighs so much. He's more than just a mismatch. He's a player who could do yards after a catch as well. Because in college, in his final season there, he led all tight ends in yards after catch. So he's a player who can move with the football, even at his size. And he's a mismatch waiting to happen also. If you throw it up to him, he's going to get it. He's 6'7". And also, he's a player who's a monster blocker as well. So you can see why he's compared to Mercedes Lewis by Aaron Rodgers. He's a massive human being, a mismatch waiting to happen, and a guy who could do some stuff with his legs as well. He's now just needed to be given the opportunity. He's mostly just been a huge blocker for the Steelers, an extra offensive lineman his first few years in the league, but now he's lost like 20 pounds, and he said he has, and he's doing that because he knows he's going to be more involved in the pass catching game, and this is only going to bode well for the Steelers. They need some duo tight ends sets that they love running, and Darnell Washington has to be that guy because no more McCollum Pruitt in there. It needs to be Darnell Washington. You need to see that growth from him at the tight end position. So now with Aaron Rodgers, we're going to see it, hopefully. Anyway, who's another player that Aaron Rodgers could be talking about? Well, we don't know for sure. Other than Darnell Washington, that's a for sure one because he's already name dropped him. But another player can be Roman Wilson because Roman Wilson's a player who no one really knows. But he was drafted in the 3rd round of last year's NFL draft, missed his entire rookie season. But he's a player that's really unknown because he was injured the entire time. And he's a player that many people are calling a bust and probably around the NFL aren't talking about. But he's a player who could really go off for the Pittsburgh Steelers and who they probably need to as well. The Steelers don't have that many playmakers at the wide receiver position other than DK Metcalf and then Calvin Austin, but people know Calvin Austin's name because what he was doing in terms of his speed and everything like that. So the only player really you could be thinking of is Roman Wilson, who will be given a bigger opportunity. And he's going to be given the opportunity because he was a 3rd round pick, and you don't pick a wide receiver in the 3rd round if you don't plan on playing him. And he's a player who the Steelers obviously saw extreme high potential in terms of his quickness and in terms of route running in college. His separation on his routes were one of the highest in the entire college in his last season there. So we know he could get open, and we know that if Aaron Rodgers sees you open, he's going to get you the ball. So if he could trust you to get open and run the right route, he's going to throw you the ball. So Roman Wilson is a name I think he could be talking about because other than that, every other name on the Pittsburgh Steelers is well known. And he's talking about the young players. And Roman Wilson and Darnell Washington are still young, with Roman in his 2nd season and Darnell Washington in his 3rd season. So the Pittsburgh Steelers can suspect to have some breakout players this year. And to be honest with you, that's why having Aaron Rodgers on your team is such a great thing, even if it's just for one season, because he allows these players, these rookies, or these young players to have some breakout seasons and actually be thrown the football, and someone with high IQ to actually get you the ball and run the right play and find and develop you as a player. So even having him for one season can really help these players get kind of up to speed with the NFL and turn into great players based off one season. When you're learning from the best, you turn into the best. So practice makes perfect, and Aaron Rodgers is trying to get these guys up to speed during training camp so they're ready to go by the time the season starts. Anyway, that's it in this video, but I just want to let you know that Aaron Rodgers plans to get these guys names around in the NFL world where people actually start paying attention to them, because there's some underrated players right now, and they can be X factors for this upcoming season because they will be given opportunities. The Steelers barely have playmakers, and they need people to step up. So these guys have to be X factors for this offense to succeed. And Aaron Rodgers thinks they will, based off what he said on the Pat McAfee show. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on Darnell Washington and your thoughts on him, comparing him to Mercedes Lewis, someone who he really loves as a teammate and player on his team, and also your thoughts on maybe who else is he talking about in terms of a young X factor this upcoming season. Do you think it's Roman Wilson he's talking about? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Also, who are you most excited to see play with Aaron Rodgers this upcoming season? Me personally, it's Calvin Austin, because if Calvin Austin's given more opportunity, in which he should be, I believe he could be a breakout and actually a number 2 receiver that some people are doubting that he can be. So Calvin Austin is my thought. Anyways, also, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news, updates, highlights, analysis, reports. Everything surrounding this team I've covered this offseason. Doesn't matter what it was. OTAs, minicamp, highlights, and analysis are on the channel. And training camp is right around the corner. So if you want highlights and analysis for that as well, make sure you subscribe to this channel with notifications on and like the video and be prepared for when that happens. Also, any new signings, any new rumors, I have that covered as well. This is the best spot for everything Pittsburgh Steelers football, so stay tuned. And until the next video, I'll see you guys all later. That's it for me. I'm out. Peace.